I was a latchkey kid. Were you? I have a few lessons. Let me tell you about them. First, I want to say I'm not mad about being a latchkey kid. Having that shoestring and that key around my neck gave me power and freedom. I will say that. That's one thing that I know that I've taken away, but I've taken many lessons away from being a latchkey kid. So I was in private school and I had a bus, and I'm 5 years old, 5, 6. I graduated at 17. So I want to say I was 5 or 6 years old, kindergarten or first grade. And the bus would bring me home. I don't even remember, side note, I don't even remember how I got to school. I don't know if the bus picked me up and it brought me home. I'm sure it did, or 'cause I don't remember my grandmother bringing me to school. So the bus must have picked me up and brought me home. I went to a private school, like I said, and it was a little green bus. It was so cute. But anyway, the key was around my neck, and I had literally a shoestring, not a chain, but a shoestring. And I was never, ever, ever, these were the rules, to take it off. I remember one time I took it off and left it at school. I was in the bathroom, and boy, did I get a whipping because of that. Because I was stuck outside. I couldn't get in the house. But I that just dawned on me that I remember that. But anyway, so I had freedom. I definitely had freedom, and I had responsibility. And being a latchkey kid, I also learned how to do things for myself. I wasn't an only child, but I lived with my grandmother. My brother was not around. He was either with my dad or my mom. I'm not sure where he was when I was that young. I guess probably with my dad or his grandparents. And the thing is, like, I had this whole story to tell you guys, and now my brain is like, it doesn't know what to tell you. So I'm not gonna try to script it out. I'm just gonna just think about it. And this video is probably gonna be choppy because I'm gonna have a lot of like blank spots where I'm just quiet. So bear with me. It's Coach Hunt. I'm a holistic self-love coach. I support women in designing their lives to have the best life ever, whatever that means for them, in practical and real ways and holistic ways for the mature women who are like me, Generation X, Generation Y, you know. So if you were a latchkey kid, stay tuned. Maybe we have some similar stories because I would love to hear them in the comment. So the first lesson I learned is to be self-sufficient, meaning I was able to come home. I was able to do my homework by myself as much as I could. I was able to eat. Usually it was a bowl of cereal or a sandwich or some type of snack that was already in the refrigerator. Because, of course, I couldn't cook. I couldn't turn on the stove. I would have gotten in trouble if I've ever tried to cook something. And to be honest, I don't even remember being able to see above the stove until I was probably about 9 or 8. Because I always just remember the stove was being like eye level. Because my grandmother used to put me on the counter to wash my hair. So I must have been short back in the day. And then I'm 5'7", so then I must have got taller some type of way. But I digress. So I was able to feed myself. I was self-sufficient. I was self-sufficient in to do my homework as much as I could. I used to have encyclopedias and pictures and things of that nature. I remember learning how to write cursive, and you know, my generation, we literally had to do the tracing, and I would have to do all my cursive, practice my name and things of that nature. So I'm thinking that's second grade. I don't know. I have to look back on that. And so self sufficiency was something important that I do now. I am very self sufficient. I do a lot of things by myself. The second thing that I learned that I've taken with me being a latchkey kid is learning how to self soothe. Now, self soothing is different from self regulation. In self regulation, you at least allow yourself to acknowledge the emotion and allow it to flow through you. Self soothing is not that. Self soothing is telling yourself that you are going to be all right regardless. Like things are going to change. It's time that has to pass for you. It's like a baby crying themselves out in the smallest component. Like if I did get scared because of the weather, or I'm just feeling lonely, or I'm hearing something, being an empath, who knows, it's my spirit angels, my guides, and I'm just not knowing how to deal with that as a young child. I learned to self-soothe, to watch TV, to go into the closet, close the door, sit in the darkness. I mean, I did some things to self-soothe myself to ensure that I wasn't gonna go crazy. And eating was one of the things as well that I would eat, especially when a commercial came on of the cereal that I had. I probably got up and made a bowl of cereal. So self-soothing was definitely that. I learned how to be patient, be knowing that I was safe and I had everything that I could possibly need besides an adult in the room. I was able to just be patient and wait and watch the clock. I remember always watching the clock because I knew a certain time my grandmother would be home, and it would be two things that I would normally do. I would make sure that my some part of my homework was done, and so I can later on ask her, like, help me with this. I didn't understand. I'll put my dishes in the sink and I rinse them out, as well as I would pull the chair back from the television because wasn't no such thing as a remote back then. So my little hands had to be able to turn the television channel. I mean, we only had what, seven stations then? Two, four, five, 11, and 13. I think it was like, yeah, five, maybe five stations. And so whatever was on, I had to be able to turn the channel. And so I always would move my chair back because every time she came home, if I was too close, she would say something like, didn't I tell you not to be so close to the television? Blah, 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 blah. So that was another lesson that I've learned about that. One of the other lessons is that I learned how to eat alone and to understand what loneliness is, and know that loneliness and being alone are two different things, because I believe I experienced both. Being alone was okay, because again, I learned how to self-soothe, but being feeling lonely, that my mother wasn't around because she was imprisoned or she was just gone, or my grandmother wasn't around because she was at work or went to the store or whatever. That was something that I just learned to deal with, and as an adult, I've I deal with that as well now. I I eat alone 90% of the time. Um, I'll probably say 98% of the time I eat by myself. I eat alone unless I'm in a group of people and we have to eat, just like at lunchtime. So if I'm at work, we're doing a work thing and other people are eating, then of course I would eat around them because I'm not a sociopath. I'm sociable. But yes, even, and I think I've taught my children how to do that as well, which I'm not very proud of at this moment, that my daughter eats alone, my son eats alone, I eat alone. We don't eat at the table, even though they're adults, but even when they were younger, we didn't eat as a family unless we were at somebody else's house celebrating the holidays or something like that. And I think part of that is that because I felt that that was normal. And when other people had family dinners and they sat around, I always was like, this is interesting, because they had conversations. But I did not grow up that way. That wasn't embedded into my little DNA at the time. So I didn't do that. And so I'm thinking about that now. Was that, you know, determinant, or was that design? I adapted to who I was and the restraints that I was, the boundaries that I had, because I only could do so much. I was a child. But I wasn't abandoned. I didn't feel abandoned. I didn't feel used. I didn't feel unsafe. I didn't feel any of those. I was just unattended. My mind was able to go wild. My imagination was able to go wild. And yeah, I was just unattended. I think that's why the different rules now is for how we say it. Neglect is being unattended at, you're too young to be unattended at a certain age. But at that time, they didn't have those particular rules. Many of times, I don't see any of those things that I've learned as negative. They're skills for survival. Even though I know physically I didn't need to survive, there was no major threat against my life, but emotionally, I needed to survive because loneliness or feeling alone at a young age, you're not sure what's going on, but it's not even faith. You're able to, it's again like I was watching the clock. I knew at a certain time she would be there, and I'm so grateful and thankful that by that time, all the time she arrived. There's no trauma, big T trauma there at all. None whatsoever. So I'm grateful and thankful, whoops, for my grandmother for doing that for me and being there for me and keeping me safe and fed and loved. I have no issues about that. But in this crown era, now I know that in my 50s and having relationships that I had even when I was married, because his family dynamics was different. One, because he had multiple siblings. He was in the middle. He had older his older sister and a younger brother. And so they ate as a family. They did a lot of things as a family unit. And I can see why now, hindsight 2020, why we didn't mesh with a lot of things, because I was so self-sufficient. I never asked him for anything. And he was the type of person who needed to, if I wanted him to do something, I needed to ask him for it. He didn't have any, what's the word, self motivation, I guess, if they want to call it, because being that he wasn't the baby, he was the middle child. The people always did for him, per se. But anyway, that's no here nor there. Being a latchkey kid, it's not a bad thing, but it did teach me a lot of things. It teach me a lot of things. So I had to figure out a lot of things by myself. I read by myself. I negotiated by myself. I problem solved by myself. I self soothed by myself. I made choices by myself, both good and not so good. I I became a person who I knew to trust me and trust the process. And I was the first responder for me. My nervous system only knew how to, when I say self soothe, it's to calm itself down temporarily, but not emotionally. And it's difficult to say because it was more of a pep talk, an inner pep talk that I had to contend with. So I think I had to remotivate myself into staying calm. Like I said, it's different from self regulation. So if you were a latchkey kid and you have some skills that you know that you are continually to use now, I love to know what it is. Especially if you was a latchkey kid like me, you were home alone. And I give you much props if you were a latchkey kid and you had other siblings that you had to take care of, or and because that in itself is a whole nother genre of skills and multitasking and behavior modification that you guys had to do. And I have to just bow down to that. And yeah, so crown era women, let me know, how are you doing now in your late 40s and your 50s? If you were the type of child who was a latchkey and had to do so many things by yourself, is that still serving you? Because sometimes I wonder if it's still serving me. I'm still alive, I'm still here, but I look forward to connections. I look forward to connecting to you. So, subscribe, like, leave me a comment, all the good stuff here on YouTube. And if you're interested in building a community with me, I am having a love immersion. It's called um, It's called Love Immersion. Drip yourself in your own deliciousness, and it's about me supporting you and filling up your whole body, your energy body, and your physical cell body with self love, so that the month of February you are not feeling out of sorts, out of wits, out of mind. You are feeling the divine love within yourself and through God, spirit, source, whatever that means for you. And it's only about an hour. It's on Zoom. And if you're interested, you can look at the description box. And I hope I see you there. Have a blessed one. I love you guys so much. It's Coach Hunt.